There was a time when Monday wasn't just another day of the week. It was laundry day, and everyone knew it. You could tell by the clotheslines full of sheets stretching across every backyard in the neighborhood, by the sound of wringer washers echoing through basement windows, by the exhaustion on your mother's face at the end of the day. Laundry wasn't something you tossed in a machine and forgot about. It was an all-day marathon that required strength, skill, and serious endurance. Then, modern machines took over. Automatic washers, electric dryers, push a button and walk away. We gained convenience, but we lost something else: the knowledge of just how hard our mothers and grandmothers worked to keep us in clean clothes. Today, we're remembering 7 exhausting laundry habits from before the machines took over. Laundry day started before sunrise. You had to wake up early, sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning, because heating enough water to wash a family's worth of clothes took hours. If you were lucky, you had a copper boiler or a large kettle on the stove. If you weren't, you heated water in smaller pots and kettles, batch after batch, carrying them to the wash tub. Some families still heated water over an outdoor fire in a giant cast iron wash pot, especially in rural areas. This wasn't a matter of turning on a faucet and getting instant hot water. You built a fire. You waited for the water to heat. You carried heavy pots and buckets back and forth, careful not to burn yourself. And you did this all before the actual washing even began. By the time the water was ready, you'd already been working for 2 or 3 hours. And the hardest part hadn't even started yet: the washboard. If you've never used one, you can't fully understand how brutal it was. This was a ridged metal or glass surface mounted in a wooden frame, and you rubbed wet, soapy clothes up and down across those ridges to loosen the dirt. Your knuckles scraped against the metal. Your arms burned from the repetitive motion. Your back ached from leaning over the wash tub for hours. The soap, usually harsh lye-based soap like Fell's naphtha, dried out your hands until they cracked and bled. Glass washboards were considered an upgrade because the ridges were smoother and less damaging to fabric. But they were also more expensive and easier to break. Most families used metal washboards and just accepted the wear and tear on both the clothes and their hands. Children were often put to work on the washboard too. Even a 10-year-old could scrub socks and handkerchiefs while their mother tackled the heavier items like sheets and work pants. It was a family effort, and it was absolutely exhausting. The wringer was both a blessing and a danger. 2 rubber rollers mounted on a frame, hand-cranked or later motorized, that squeezed water out of wet clothes. It was far more effective than wringing by hand, which only removed about 50% of the water. But those rollers were unforgiving. If you fed the clothes through too fast, they'd bunch up and jam. If you weren't careful with buttons, they'd pop off or get crushed. And if your fingers or hair got caught between the rollers, you were in serious trouble. Every family had a story: a grandmother whose fingers got pulled into the wringer, a child who leaned too close and got their hair caught. The machines had emergency release levers, but accidents still happened constantly. You had to reverse the wringer to send clothes back through from the wash water to the rinse water, then through again to a second rinse. Each piece of laundry went through those rollers at least 3 times. And you stood there feeding clothes through for hours, with aching arms and constant vigilance to keep yourself safe. The phrase, "put through the wringer," comes from this exact experience, and it meant exactly what it sounds like. Keeping white clothes white was a science. Over time, fabrics would yellow from soap residue, minerals in the water, and exposure to sunlight. So housewives added bluing, a blue liquid or powder, to the final rinse water. This sounds counterintuitive. Adding blue dye to make whites whiter? But it worked. The blue tint optically canceled out the yellow tones, making fabrics appear brighter and cleaner. It was chemistry masquerading as magic. But you had to get the ratio exactly right. Too little bluing and it didn't work. Too much and your white sheets came out with blue streaks and splotches. There was no measuring cup, no instructions on the bottle that accounted for your specific water hardness or load size. You learned by trial and error, and by watching your mother and grandmother do it. Bluing came in small glass bottles with names like Mrs. Stewart's Bluing or Reckitt's Blue. You'd shake a few drops into the rinse water, swish it around, and pray you'd gotten it right. Competitions arose between neighbors over who had the whitest sheets hanging on the line. Your laundry was public, and everyone was watching. After the wash, after the rinse, after the bluing, There was still more work to do before you could hang clothes on the line. Dress shirts, tablecloths, pillowcases, and anything that needed to look crisp had to be starched. Starch was made from potatoes, wheat, or rice, mixed with water into a thick liquid. You dip the clean, wet garment into the starch, wring it out again, and then hang it to dry, but not completely. Clothes had to be ironed while still damp for the starch to set properly. Tuesday was ironing day for a reason. You couldn't iron on Monday because the clothes weren't ready yet. So Monday you washed, Tuesday you ironed. All day, every single item. The irons were called sad irons, and the name was fitting. Sad meant heavy. These solid cast iron blocks weighed 5 to 9 pounds each. You heated them on the stovetop, switching between 2 or 3 irons as each one cooled. No temperature control, no steam setting, just a hot piece of metal in your hand and your own judgment to keep from scorching everything. Grandmothers ironed everything. And we mean everything. Sheets, pillowcases, dish towels, even men's underwear. If it was fabric, it got ironed. Dryers didn't exist in most homes until the 1950s, and even then, many families couldn't afford them until the 60s or 70s. So everything, and we mean everything, got hung outside on a clothesline to dry. Most backyards had 2 tall posts with multiple lines strung between them. 4 lines minimum, sometimes 6 or 8. Wet sheets took up enormous amounts of space. A family of 6 could easily fill every inch of line space on laundry day. You had to time it right. Get the clothes on the line early enough that they'd dry before dark. Check the weather, so rain didn't ruin your work. In winter, clothes froze solid on the line and had to be brought in stiff as boards to finish drying indoors, draped over furniture and radiators. The whole neighborhood could see your laundry. It was a strange kind of public exposure. Your underwear, your sheets, your family's life literally hung out for everyone to judge. Women competed over who had the whitest whites, who got their laundry out earliest, who had the most organized line with colors grouped together and everything hanging perfectly straight. And if you didn't get your laundry on the line early on Monday morning, the neighbors noticed and talked. Here's the thing about old-fashioned laundry that people today don't fully understand. It wasn't a chore you did when the hamper got full. It was a strict, inflexible schedule that governed the entire week. Monday was laundry day. Period. You didn't do laundry on Tuesday or Thursday or whenever it was convenient. You did it Monday because that's when everyone did it, and that's how it had always been done. Tuesday was ironing day. Wednesday was mending day. You finally sat down to repair all the damage from washing and wearing. Thursday was market day. Friday was cleaning day. Saturday was baking day. Sunday was the day of rest. The week was structured around laundry. And there was no getting ahead. No doing 2 weeks of laundry at once. Because washing machines held small loads, and everything took so long, you could only wash what you could physically manage in one day. So every single Monday, without fail, you woke up at 5 in the morning and did it all over again. Heating water, scrubbing, wringing, rinsing, bluing, starching, hanging. For your entire adult life. Until you were too old to do it anymore, and then your daughter took over. It never ended. Ever. 7 habits. 7 exhausting, back-breaking, all-consuming tasks that filled every Monday for generations of American women. And we've forgotten almost all of it. When automatic washing machines arrived in the late 1940s and 1950s, they were marketed as liberation. And they were. They freed women from hours of physical labor. They gave back time that could be spent on other things, jobs, education, rest. But somewhere in that transition, we lost the understanding of what laundry used to cost. Not in money, but in time, energy, and physical pain. Our grandmothers had hands that were permanently rough from lye soap and cold water, backs that ached from leaning over wash tubs, arms that were strong from cranking wringers and carrying wet laundry. They could tell the weather by how their joints felt on laundry day. Modern machines took over, and we gained so much. We can wash clothes in 30 minutes without thinking about it. We can dry them in an hour. We can wear something once and toss it in the hamper without guilt, because washing it again costs us almost nothing. But it's worth remembering just for a moment what Monday used to mean. What laundry day really was. The women who did this work week after week, year after year, without complaint, because it simply had to be done. Next time you throw a load in the washer and walk away, maybe take a second to appreciate what you didn't have to do. You didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to heat water. You didn't scrub your knuckles raw on a washboard. You didn't risk your fingers in a wringer. You didn't stand in the cold hanging sheets on a line. You just pressed a button. And that, more than almost anything else in modern life, is a miracle our grandmothers would have killed for.